cream of the crop, and I rise to the top, the Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh yeah, the Macho Man Randy Savage, one of the greatest of all time. Comes in at number 2 for me. Randy Savage, just the Macho Man. Started out as a baseball player, you know what I mean? Brother is Lanny Poffo, as you all know, the genius. That's the Macho Man's real brother. His real name is Angelo Poffo. Is Macho Man's dad. What a career, the Macho Man. Started out, as I said, as a baseball player, working in Memphis, wrestling. Just loved wrestling. Loved it. Would have went on to have a pretty good baseball career. Just jumping ahead a long time, if you remember, 1994, before SummerSlam, right? Not that long before Savage jumped to WCW, they had a baseball thing right before SummerSlam in Chicago, and it was you saw Diesel, Razor, Shawn, all of them, the Smoking Guns, everybody in that. Macho Man up the bat, and he hit a friggin' home run. And he smoked the ball. I mean, Randy Savage was a great baseball player. Had he not had injuries, he would have been a Major League Baseball star. But I'm glad we got him in wrestling. Because when Macho Man came out, I can never forget, he came out and I just started watching wrestling. And all these managers are in the ring. Bobby Heenan, Jimmy Hart, Johnny Valiant, Captain Lou Albano. I mean, no, Slick wasn't there yet. No, what do you call it? All these wrestlers were there. All these managers were there. And they were all, and then Macho Man, this woman comes out of the crowd. It's Elizabeth. I mean, and Elizabeth looked sexy back there. As years went on, Elizabeth started to look too, I'll get to Sherry and her later. But what do you call Elizabeth as years went on? But when she came out in 85, 85 with him, I think it was the summer of 85, when she came out, I mean, it was great. Macho Man's career in WWE and the big time was starting out. That's why, I'm not going to go back to the territories, but then he started out, then he won the Intercontinental title February 86 in the Boston Garden when he hit Tito Santana, had him back, he hit him, bang, Macho Man pinned him, 1, 2, 3, you know what I mean, fought George Steele at WrestleMania that year. George Steele was always trying to stick up for Elizabeth because Macho Man would always be treating her like shit storyline wise, but behind the scenes he did make sure. He was a very paranoid dude, Randy Savage, and that's cool. I'm paranoid too. But Randy Savage, would always have, hear he'd lock Elizabeth in rooms. He would leave her in there. Even when the storyline was when he was with Sherry. You know what I mean? He was still married to Elizabeth, so he would put Elizabeth in the room. You know what I mean? He was very protective of Elizabeth, very, and it's his wife. So I would be too. But Macho Man started the greatest, I think, Honky Tonk. They say Honky Tonk Man's the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time. No, Wayne Ferris is not. That's the Honky Tonk Man's real name. He's not the greatest. Randy Savage held that belt from February of 86 all the way to March 29th, 1987 at the Pontiac Silverdome. To me, probably the greatest match of all time. If not, I don't know. There's not a lot of matches up there I can top better than Randy Savage and Ricky Steamboat, except for maybe Ric Flair and Ricky Steamboat, and I don't even think that. I think WrestleMania 3 and WrestleMania 25 with HBK and The Undertaker are the 2 greatest WrestleMania matches ever. I mean, and I'm really going to have to say, I love The Taker, HBK, WrestleMania 25, and I love Austin Brett, WrestleMania 13, a lot of other ones, But I will safely say Ricky Steamboat, Randy Savage, WrestleMania 3 was the greatest match ever. I mean, Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon, the commentary, everything. I mean, I don't like George Steele, but just him being there. You know what I mean? Savage trying to grab the bell. He's going to do it again. You hear Jesse. I mean, the way the match was called, they stole the show. And then they had Hulk and Andre, and that wasn't that great of a match. Very slow, kind of boring. I remember as a kid watching that Hulk and Andre match, after seeing the Savage and Steamboat match, like, wow. It was blown. I was off my rocker. But then Hogan and Andre was kind of bored, but it was cool. Hogan slammed him, and that's whatever, But we're talking about the Macho Man. But Macho Man and Ricky Steamboat, Macho Man, and Macho Man. No, not Ricky Steamboat. Macho Man made that WrestleMania. Ricky Steamboat too, because he won, but the guy who always puts the guy over is the bigger star in my book, and in wrestling, in the business, in reality, that's how it is. Macho Man made that match, made that WrestleMania, and he made WrestleMania 4. Fast forward a year, I mean, that's why WrestleMania 4 is my favorite WrestleMania. It was the Randy Savage show. He went out there and wrestled 4 guys. You'll never see that nowadays. Nowadays, when they had the tournament for the title at Survivor Series, they had 2 matches. And Roman Reigns predictably won. You know what I mean? And I've talked about that before, how they should have made that all go down. I mean, when they had, when they had Roman defend the title in the Royal Rumble this year. I mean, that was kind of, they had to do that in the Royal Rumble because the last two Royal Rumbles sucked. You know what I mean? So they had to do that this year. I'm getting off topic. But that's the way with Randy Savage. Is that was that WrestleMania? You never see that. I mean, he first went in and he fought Butch Reed, the natural Butch Reed, who it was a great wrestler, Hacksaw Butch Reed in the territories. Beat Butch Reed, beat Greg Valentine, beat the One Man Gang, and then beat Ted DiBiase, won the title. That's my favorite WrestleMania of all time. WrestleMania 4, then 17, then 3. They're my top 3 WrestleManias. All the other ones I don't know how, but they're the top 3 WrestleManias in my book. WrestleMania 4, Randy Savage and that was great. And then the next year, 5, the Mega. I knew that when Randy won that year. I remember him. I was a little kid watching. I was in 6th grade. I was in 6th grade or 5th. No, I was in 5th grade. Yeah, I was in 5th grade. I remember watching it and saying, they're building up for this. Next year, it's going to be Savage versus Hogan at the main event of WrestleMania 5, and it was. I mean, you could see that as it was building that whole year in '88. You could see at SummerSlam when Elizabeth took off her skirt, and DiBiase and Andre were like. And then at Survivor Series when, Savage was against the ropes and Macho and Hogan was holding Elizabeth and, he was like touching her ass. He had barely, it wasn't a thing. He had his hand right on Elizabeth's cheek. But then, go to WrestleMania 5 and I thought that was a perfect pairing, him and Sherry. You know what I mean? After Savage lost, he's in the back seeing Elizabeth. And then Hogan comes back and Sherry grabs Hogan's hair and Savage. And I thought it was a great thing when Savage announced Sherry on the Brother Love show. And I'm going to say it right now. Back then, and I would say back to probably Elizabeth, back then, at that time, in 89 and 1990, I think Sherry was better looking. She put on that crazy makeup to people because Beefcake started up that scary Sherry thing. But when Sherry first came out, and Macho Man said, my new manager, much more beautiful than Elizabeth could ever be. And, Sherry came out. Sherry looked in that pink, sexy outfit. She was a woman. She was a woman, a thick woman. Elizabeth was like that little Catholic schoolgirl. She was sexy and pretty, but at that time, when I was, I just thought Sherry, the way Sherry dressed, that was a woman to me. I was a young kid. I admit, she was, I was like, I don't know what the Gorilla Monsoon used to be like, you must need, say Bobby Heenan, and, the heel announcers would always say Sherry's hotter than the face announcers would be like Gorilla and Vince. They'd be like, oh, Elizabeth, how dare Sherry put her name and Elizabeth's name in the same sentence. But Sherry was better looking. At that time, Sherry was way more sexier than Elizabeth. Way more. And she could fight. And to me, that always turned me on the chick. A chick that's sexy and it can fight. And, that just, it has an attitude that always just, and she could. Sherry could. And then she put too much makeup on because she was pretty. And if you ever listen, when she would come out, you could hear people in the crowd, guys whistling. You know what I mean? And then they had to put all that makeup on her to make her look ugly. Because she was Sherry Martel was a sexy woman. Even when she retired with the Hall of Fame in 2006, she was still sexy and still running her mouth and going crazy. I thought that was a great pairing. And when, Macho King and, Sensational Queen, that was great. The match at WrestleMania 7 with Randy Savage and The Warrior. The Warrior, I love The Warrior. He had one of his greatest matches against Randy Savage because Randy Savage made that. Remember, he was going, he did about, remember how many elbows he did in that match? I think he did about 5, 6 of them, 7 of them, right on The Warrior. That was a great match. I remember, damn, Macho Man's retirement. And it was great with Elizabeth. But even then, Sherry got a little older, and Elizabeth, I think, looked better by this time. But, Sherry was wearing that outfit at WrestleMania 7. And Elizabeth, she started kicking Macho, saying, you're a loser. And Macho's laying in the ring. And then, of course, Elizabeth comes down. She throws Sherry off. All them years, Sherry was like the bully to Elizabeth. Elizabeth was always scared of Sherry. And now Elizabeth comes down and just takes her 2 hands, her little hands, and just throws Sherry out. And Sherry don't come back in. All them other years, you would always see, Elizabeth, looking at Sherry, scared shitless. But now, Elizabeth, that's the thing, I think, they think we're stupid. You know what I mean? Even back then, I was just now Elizabeth's like Hulk Hogan in there throwing Sherry out. But, that was great. And Macho, went on. And at that time, if anybody remembers, they were having Macho and Elizabeth get back together when in real life, they were really just starting to get separated. You know, and Hulk Hogan had a lot to do with that, and his wife Linda. You know, that's another story for another day. But in real life, when they got them back together on screen, they were really starting to separate. That's when and it was weird because the whole time Macho Man was with Sherry on screen, behind the scenes he was with Elizabeth. Elizabeth was his wife. He was going home. He was coming to the arena with Elizabeth, going home with Elizabeth. But when it was weird because when he broke off and he started to get the on-screen back with Elizabeth, that's when they were really splitting up. And match made in heaven, SummerSlam 91. They were in the middle of a separation. Randy and Elizabeth, when they were alive, both said it was the most awkward time. We're getting married in a ring, and we're really going through a separation in real life. You know, and then it went on, and they put Macho behind the booth, and he wanted to do, you know, he was getting older, and he had, let me remember here. He was behind the booth at WrestleMania 9 at JR's debut, him and Heenan. I thought, I mean, that WrestleMania 9 wasn't one of the greatest WrestleManias, but I think with that, JR's first, Heenan and Macho, I think they did. I just watched that WrestleMania a couple weeks ago. That was a good play-by-play. They do a good job. Heenan and Macho were just great. JR was just starting. He didn't do that great at that WrestleMania, but Heenan and Macho going back and forth to each other were great. Macho originally wanted to do a series with Shawn Michaels. He wanted to basically be his mentor. You know what I mean? And they were going to be heels. Then eventually, you know, Macho would have been a heel, you know, training Shawn, and then Shawn would turn on Macho Man. And then, you know, bring a Macho Man back to a face. But he pitched that idea to Vince, and Shawn even liked it. You know, there's a couple times I heard in interviews and DVDs, Shawn liked that idea. Macho, you know, Vince kind of hurt Macho's feelings and said, we're kind of going in a younger direction. Macho, we like you right here behind the booth. Here and there in the big pay-per-views or a big house show or something, you'll get a match. But, you know, we basically want you behind the booth. And Macho, you know, basically said, I'll get a second opinion. And the second opinion, you all know, was WCW. Which kind of sucked, because Macho Man even said before he died, he said, I always, even when we were on Nitro and we were, you know, kicking WWF's ass, I always considered myself a New York guy, WWF. The territories they used to call WWF New York. You all know that. True wrestling fans know that. But, you know, he went to WCW and he was a world champion, 4 times there. You know what I mean? I think, yeah. And I mean, I remember him beating Flair before the NWO came in. I remember him winning the title. And then I remember him winning the title when WCW sucked, you know. And he joined the NWO. Him and his matches with Diamond Dallas Page were great. I mean, from them, they were in. I mean, remember, Diamond Dallas Page he didn't get over. He didn't even start wrestling until his mid-30s. He didn't get over until he was about 40, 41. Macho was 42, 43, and they were putting, I remember in the beginning of 97 to even Fall Brawl 97. Then Macho Man and DDP were tearing the house down for WCW. And these are two mid-40-year-old guys, and them street fight, they were great. Elizabeth and Kimberly going at it was just great. Macho Man, as we know, really don't like Hulk Hogan. Another big thing about the Macho Man. Everybody wants to know, did he bang Stephanie McMahon? That's the big question. Well, I think he did, because if you remember, Triple H said something about, you know, Macho Man being a dinosaur, and then Macho Man came back and said, came back and said, I'll smack you and I'll bit smack you, Triple H, and take your wife. Why would he say that? You know what I mean? Why would he say? And if you look at it, they say the time frame. If Randy Savage would have had if Randy Savage would have had an affair with Stephanie McMahon, it was in 1993. That would have made Savage, who was 41 at that time. Stephanie would have been 17, 18, 93. She was 17, 18 in 93. Savage was 41 in 93. So if that happened, or 94, yeah, he was 41, 42, and she was 17, 18. So, I mean, it kind of makes sense, you know what I mean, that all these other wrestlers came back after Vince bought WCW, Hogan, you know what I mean, Nash, they all came back except one guy. Randy Savage. Why? And I really think Stephanie, if anybody in WWE, Hunter, Vince, Shane, anybody, Kevin Dunn, any of you, Billy Kidman, Stephanie should address that. She should come out and let everybody know. Yes, I slept with Randy Savage. No, I didn't. Or lie about it and say, no, I didn't. It was just a fabricated story. I was very friendly. Because in Bob Holly's book, Bob Holly says, for a 41-year-old or something like that, him and Stephanie were very close. And he just leaves it at that. Hulk Hogan says, I never saw none, but we all know Hogan bullshits so much, you know. But this is my wrap-up for the Randy Savage. I'll tell a little bit more about Randy Savage, and then for Joey G's favorite wrestler of all time, and then we'll move on from this shit. All right? But I got to get myself out there to let the fans know who I am. This is Joey G, a little touch-up on Randy Savage, and we'll get to Joey G's favorite wrestler. I'll see you later. Peace.